Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation, divorce, and mediation services in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we're going to discuss an important topic, divorce, mediation, and grief, and why healing is important with Karen Millon. Karen is the founder of Healin, Healin with no G. She's an experienced entrepreneur in the healthcare space. She is a transformational coach. She's also host of the Healin podcast and author of An Amazing Divorce. Well, let's talk a little bit about that because we've alluded to it a couple times, and it is something that maybe people aren't as aware of, so there are a few ways a person can heal from divorce besides like traditional, because everybody thinks of a therapist. You were raised by a therapist, so was I. So we're kind of like, therapy is part of life. But not everybody thinks that, right? They might think, oh, we got to go see a therapist, then it must be really bad. Like this must be really bad. But I also think that one thing that we've seen a lot in divorce is self-esteem issues. And that's all yourself, right? Like you can heal that. You can work on that. You're in control of that. That's you. Instead of saying, oh, I got to fix the world and other people, like you kind of have to start with you. So tell us more about EMDR, because I know enough to be dangerous, but it is a very interesting and powerful modality for healing.
Yes. So as I started at the beginning, counseling and therapy is highly recommended, especially if you've never done anything to heal. As you know, telling our friends and family all that went on in our marriage and what they called us, and they called us a bitch once, we will forget that. They won't. And so I always recommend everyone just have someone objective to just vent with. There's also the birth of a lot of communities out there that for $9, $40, you join and you vent and it's safe. But healing is going at the root of the problem so that they never trigger you, they never bother you again. And that's hard. And so what happens is that you're absolutely right. If you're someone like us who did not experience trauma is we did not go to war. We did not have a car accident. Our uncle or priest didn't sexually violate us. We didn't grow up in a very abusive home. We weren't beat up. We weren't, we didn't lose a parent to death or incarceration, though a lot of people have. Growing up with a single mother is trauma. But what has come to light lately with a lot of research and the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, is that neglect is trauma, that emotional neglect is trauma, and that when you go through something in your entire childhood where you suffer the same emotional neglect, is trauma, and it affects your beliefs and the meaning you gave your life and who you are to the core. And that's the bottom of self-esteem that you see in marriage. So being wealthy, and I went to private school and having a good life. But if your parents worked too much and they weren't there for you, and they showed up at 7 p.m. every night to kiss you quickly and then go back to work, or they work on weekends, or they were at-home moms. I have clients who had at-home moms but had a tea golf time at 7 a.m. and they were 9 years old making their own lunch and walking themselves to school because the mom had a golf game, or they play tennis too much. I have clients whose mothers had an amazing social life, but they didn't spend time with them. That affect us to the core. So all children, and you have 4 kids, I have 3, know that they need affection, a lot of affection. They need attention, a lot of attention, and they need acknowledgement. It's exhausting. And the more you give it, the more they want. But that's who they are. And so when we grow up and we see our parents on their phone all the time or working all the time. So my mother was a therapist. She was also a professor at the local university. So she not only worked all day, but she had to mark exams all day. And on the weekend, I saw kids coming to my house fighting for marks and lineups on tests. And she was always working. My parents never played with me, ever, never came to see any of my softball games. Um, I was home with three nannies who were not my nannies. They were the cook, the cleaner, the chauffeur. I was lonely, alone, on my own till 7 every day, at the hands of an older brother who bullied me. And when that happens to you, or I've had clients who are the fourth born and they get all the hand-me-downs and all the worn out t-shirts and the worn out shirts and the no parties and no activities. And, I've done it 3 times. Why the heck am I going to do it? You know how that's like, why are we going to do it again? And have stories to me that being bullied by their older siblings that never played with them, always exclude them, get out of my room, you're a pest, you're annoying. That is enough to traumatize you for life and make you feel that you're not lovable, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy of love. And then, believe it or not, we find partners who will repeat the same pattern where we're not loved, we're not seen, we're not heard, we're not lovable. And then we're stuck in relationships like I was because I didn't feel like I was good enough. Mm-hmm. Despite my education, despite my income, despite the fact that people look at me and say I'm beautiful, I didn't feel beautiful. I had a brother, Melissa, who told me I was butt ugly every day of my life, who called me names. I had a mother who told me I was ugly and told me, don't worry, the luck of the pretty ones, the ugly ones desire, and was talking to me about plastic surgery. And so I'm 45, and 5 years ago, my new husband of 8 years now, was like, you're beautiful. I'm like, what? Who are you talking about? Like, because this stuff, despite of your wealth, despite of your great childhood, every client I have, Melissa, when I ask them about their childhood, they all start by telling me that they had a great childhood. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they went on vacations, because they had jet streams, because they had the sailboat, because they had. That doesn't matter. When you are 40 years old and you can't ask for a raise, you can't charge what you're worth, you can't leave your wife, you can't leave your husband, you're not heard, you're not seen. You don't have to have experienced trauma and sexual abuse and being beat up to be living a life with negative beliefs. And these are the negative beliefs that make us date the wrong person, marry the wrong person, stay with the wrong person, not be the parents we want to be. So what EMDR does, that's a long way to tell you, EMDR is a technique that was developed 30 years ago by Francine Shapiro here in New York City, who has been tremendously validated with research to work over 70% of the time. And it works to address those negative beliefs that we form. So when you go to therapy, you might have 1 or 2 sessions where you share your history, but it's not a place. Men love EMDR, and it's the tool that is mostly used for veterans for PTSD, because you can have a very successful session without talking too much or sharing it all. So what happens is EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And what she found on her research is that, like we said, we are experts at repression. And you can understand just by understanding in the right side of your brain and cognitively that you were abused, or that you grew up with alcoholic parents, or that your dad was schizophrenic, or that you're screwed up for that, messed up, you're stuck. Right. Has nothing to do with healing. So what happens is that when you are bilaterally stimulated, so they make you follow their fingers, or they put tappers on your legs and you feel like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or when you're doing it in Zoom, which is highly effective, you hug yourself and you do butterfly taps. For some reason, that bilateral stimulation allows you to access the emotional part of your brain.